Hey, check out this ad over here on the right-hand side. It says mouse over to here. Look at that. Now, that's creative web search marketing. What does this have to do with the long tail? Keywords and the long tail? Nothing. I just thought that was pretty cool. Look at that. It's supposed to play music, but it's not. All right. What is the long tail when it comes to keywords? What's the point? Well, I'm going to encourage you to come and read this article here. Don't get hung up on this ad. It's distracting. But if you go over to Wired.com, Wired Magazine, and if you can stop your movie and come up here and check out the URL up here, that's great. I might as well read it to you real quick. Wired.com/wired/12.10/tail.html. Hopefully you can see this. But this is a very famous story written by, I guess, Chris Anderson. And I believe Chris has a blog, or there's now some blogs about this. There's the blog link there. But Chris wrote a really good article about something called the long tail. Now, I'm not going to go into all that detail about it, but it starts right here about a book that someone wrote and how it had a niche market. And that's really what we're talking about. So let's go over here and click on one of these little illustrations so it'll give you some idea of what I'm talking about. And this is ultimately what I'd like you to come and study. And the anatomy of the long tail when it applies to keywords, and where I'm going in this video is that this graph is showing you like the most popular songs and how certain kinds of players like, say, Amazon or CD Now, I believe CD Now is still around, and the various players sell a lot of the most popular songs, and they do a phenomenal business doing that. They're capturing people for the most popular stuff. But there's all these niche players that have record stores or CD stores, and they capture not as much as, say, the most popular CD by a recording artist or selling CDs or downloads of music or what have you like that, but this long tail approach is that the people who tend to sell in the niche market and go broad actually sell more than the most popular sites. Now, I hope I'm explaining this correctly. It behooves you to read this story. The bottom line is, as applied to keywords, it works like this. And I'm going to give you a great example here in just a minute. If you are trying to optimize a website for the most popular keywords, you may get some hits. You may get some significant hits. But you're competing with lots and lots of other players for the space in the SERPs to sell for highly, highly competitive keywords. But if you take yourself down several notches and optimize client sites, your site, company sites for niche keywords, and if you go broad, meaning you have more pages that are showing up in the SERPs for people over broad keywords, meaning a lot more pages for keywords than shallow pages for the highest competitive pages, you're going to do better. Okay, that's the point of me showing you this. You're going to do better. So read the story. Go to the link, go to the story, read all about this because it's really, really good. Okay, the long tail. And it's on the Wired Magazine website. Now that I've said this, let me give you an example. Let's go over to Yahoo this time. And I'm going to actually kind of repeat what I am currently doing for clients. So, do you know what a travel nurse is? Yes? No? Okay, you may or you may not. But what a travel nurse does is a travel nurse flies primarily all over North America and is treated like royalty by travel nurse agencies like this one, Travel Nurse Across America. And these guys and gals are wined and dined, and they're given fantastic apartments and per diem and insurance and bonuses, and it goes on and on and on. And the catch here is that the professional travel nurse can sign up with a company, do a minimum of usually 3 months in some location, whether it's Los Angeles or Denver or New York City or Alabama or someplace, and they do their thing, and then they move on to another location. It could be even Hawaii for that matter. So that's what they do. So there is some serious competition, though, for this space out there. Meaning, when I do a search for travel nurse like this, okay, There are 18,200,000 websites or results for this. I shouldn't say websites, that's wrong. There are results for these terms, but it's highly, highly competitive. And as I showed in a very early movie, that some of these keywords that these companies are competing for, like, say, travel nurse jobs, because you want to capture the nurse to come to your agency for a job, the numbers are still quite significant. And you'd have a hard time placing your website here. But now the long tail approach, and one of my favorite ways of doing this, is geotargeting. So if you recall from an earlier movie, that one way to actually capture more users, but with the long tail, would be to do something like this, is optimize the page for Los Angeles. And the number is shrinking. That is still very, very high. But if you're trying to find travel nurses that will sign up with your travel nurse agency, you can have much better shot. You can have a much better shot of getting them here for this term than you could for just straight travel nurse or travel nurse jobs. It gets even better, if you do something in a smaller city like San Diego. Oops. It's late, you guys. I'm having trouble typing right now. So now we're down to 707,000 listings. So a travel nurse company could get some good business and get some potential very high ranks in here for these. In fact, this is probably really good. Travel nurse job San Diego, because I don't even see any good keywords lined up here. Even California made it in there. All right, there's the first one down there. So there's a good shot that someone could optimize and capture this organic listing. There you have it. Learn about the long tail as it applies to SEO.